We continue now at the top of Daf Kufya Tesam and Beis in Meseches Zevachim. This is Zevachim Daf 119b. On the previous summit, the Gemara gave various opinions in terms of what menucha and nachala mean in the pasuk of Kilo Vosem Arata El HaMenucha V'El HaNachala. Some opinions were that menucha means Shiloh, nachala means Yerushalayim, or the reverse. But there were also opinions that both menucha and nachala mean Shiloh, or both menucha and nachala mean Yerushalayim. And so the Gemara now says it makes sense according to the one who says that menucha is Shiloh and nachala is Yerushalayim. Nachala is Yerushalayim. Inami Ibcha, or the reverse, again, that menucha is Yerushalayim and nachala is Shiloh. Hainu dichsiv el hamenucha v'el hanachla. That's why it says in the pasuk el hamenucha v'el hanachla, mentioning both. El laman damar zu v'zu Shiloh, but according to the one who says that they're both Shiloh, o zu v'zu Yerushalayim, or they're both Yerushalayim, so menucha nachala mi boile. It should just say menucha nachala, and the Shinui Neschos has el hamenucha v'nachala mi boile. It should just say el hamenucha v'nachala. It doesn't have to say el hamenucha v'el hanachala. And the Gemara says to that kasha, the Gemara says indeed that is difficult. And the Gemara continues, B'shlam alaman damar zu v'zu Shiloh. It makes sense according to the one who says that they're both Shiloh. So menucha would mean denachu mikivash. Menucha would mean that they rested from the conquering. And nachala, when it says nachala, depolgu hasam nachalos, that's where they divided up the inheritance. Dechsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, vayachalik lehem Yoshua vayapelem gorel b'Shiloh al pi Hashem. We'll take a look at the full pasuk. The girsa seems to be a bit off. Vayashlich lehem Yoshua gorel b'Shiloh lifnei Hashem vayachalik sham Yoshua es haaretz lifnei Yisrael kamach lekosam. And so clearly it's saying that in Shiloh, that's when they divided up the land. So that makes sense. Ela leman damar zu v'zu Yerushalayim. But according to the one who says both menucha and nachala are Yerushalayim, so b'shlama nachala, I understand that Yerushalayim is a nachala. Nachala solamim, that's the forever inheritance. Ela menucha, but menucha, my menucha, what menucha are we talking about? And the Gemara says menuchas aron. It's a reference to the menuchas aron, the aron coming to rest. T'chsiv, as it's written, vayhi kenoach ha'aron. It uses that language with regards to the aron. And the Gemara continues, B'shlam alaman damar zu v'zu Yerushalayim. It makes sense according to the one who says that they're both Yerushalayim. Aval Shiloh have a sharya bamos, and according to that, in Shiloh, bamos were permitted. So hainu dichsiv, that's what's written in the pasuk in Sefer Shoftim, vayikach manoach es kediho izim ve'es hamincha vayal al hatzur la'Hashem. It says Manoach offered a sacrifice al hatzur. He seemed to be offering on a bama, and that would make sense because during the time of Shiloh, according to that opinion, bamos were permitted. Elolaman damar zu v'zu Shiloh, but according to the one who says that it's all Shiloh, ubamos have asiran, and bamos were forbidden during the time of Shiloh. My vayikach manoach. Why does it say vayikach manoach? How did he use a bama? And the Gemara says to that, Horas shah haisa, that was just a ruling just for that time. It was an exception to the general rule. And the Gemara continues, Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, it was taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, like Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, D'yamar zu v'zu Yerushalayim, who says that both menucha and nachala are Yerushalayim. And how do you remember that that is the case? V'simonech, the mnemonic to remember this, Moshcha gavra legavri, the individual person, the one person of Shimon bar Yochai, he pulled the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel over to his side. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, the Mishnah said, Kol ha-kachim, all kachim that were consecrated during a time when bamos were permitted, and then they're slaughtered outside of the Beis HaMikdash, so there is a violation, but there is no kares in that situation, since at the time of consecration, bamos were permitted. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Kahana says, Lo shanu ela b'shchita, this is only true by slaughtering it outside of the Beis HaMikdash. There is no kares. Avol b'ha'allah, but in terms of offering it up outside of the Beis HaMikdash, kares nami mechayev, there would also be liability for kares. My time of what's the reason? Diyamar kra, because the pasuk says, V'aleim tomar, it says, to them you will say, Al hasmuchin tomar. We understand v'aleim, not with an aleph, but with an ayin, on that which is nearby, meaning to say, again, by hallah, in this situation, we would say there is kares. And Rashi explains, Lo shanu hadu katani dehekdeshan b'shas heter, that which it says in the Mishnah, that if the consecration was at a time of heter bamos, v'ikrivam b'shas isser, but then it was offered at the time when bamos are forbidden, ein bohem kares, that there's no kares, that's only true ella b'shchita, it's only true by shchita. Kedetanya b'hashochet, like we learned in the Bryce and Hashochet earlier, yachol yechayav, and all of kares, one might think there's kares. Talmud lomar zos lohem ve'ein acheres lem, this for them and nothing else for them, meaning to say in this case, there is no kares. But by hallah, by offering it up, it says in the pasuk v'aleim tomar gabe hallah ksiv. This is written by offering up. Uvasar kra da'ayri b'shochet kachim shekrivan shehikdisham b'shas heter b'shachtim b'shas isser. This is right after the pasuk that talks about slaughtering kachim that were were consecrated at the time of Heter Bamos and slaughtered when there was Isser Bamos. V'lo yizbechu od do kimna b'hachi. That's what we're talking about over there. That again, it's hekdeshin b'shas Heter and shachtan b'shas Isser, and that's va'aleim tomar, meaning in terms of this situation of halah going on that case before, there is going to be kares. That's how Rav Kahana understands the pasuk. And the Gemara continues, Maskefla Rabba asks on this understanding, Miksiv va'aleim tomar, does it say in the pasuk va'aleim tomar with an ayin? Aleim ksiv, it's actually written aleim with an aleph, so how do you learn it in that fashion? V'yod, and further, Tanya, we learned in a brisa, arba klolos hoyer Rabbi Shimon Omer, bekadshim, Rabbi Shimon has 4 rules when it comes to kadshim. Hekdeshin b'shas isra habamos, let's say the consecration was at a time when bamos are forbidden, v'shachat v'hela, and he slaughters and offers it up, b'shas isra habamos, also at a time when it's forbidden, b'achutz, outside the Beis HaMikdash, harehein, b'asei v'los hasei v'yesh ban kares, that's a complete violation, and therefore there's a violation of a positive and negative commandment, and there's kares. Hekdeshin b'shas heter habamos, if the consecration takes place at the time that bamos are permitted, v'shachat v'hela b'shas isra habamos, and he slaughters and offers up at the time when bamos are usher, harehein ba'asei v'los hasei, there's a violation of a positive and negative commandment, ve'ein ban kares, and there is no kares, it says explicitly offering up as well, there is no kares. And hekdeshin b'shas isra bamos, if the consecration is when bamos are usher, v'shachat v'hela b'chutz, and he slaughters and offers up outside the Beis HaMikdash, b'shas heter bamos, when bamos are mutter, harehein ba'asei, then there's a violation of just an asei, ve'ein b'hen belos asei, and there is no negative commandment. Hekdeshin b'shas heter bamos, v'shachat v'hela b'shas heter bamos, if he consecrates at the time that bamos are permitted and slaughters and offers at the time that bamos are permitted, so pater miklum, then he's completely exempt. And the Gemara says to Yufta, to Rav Kahana, is this a refutation of Rav Kahana? And the Gemara says to Yufta, indeed it is a refutation. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said V'yelu kachim, and the Mishnah goes on to list various parts of bringing karbanos that do not apply by bamos, by private altars. And the Gemara now brings the sources for all of these. Smicha, when it comes to smicha, techsiv lifnei Hashem, it says lifnei Hashem, that requirement is only lifnei Hashem, again not by the bama. V'samach, it says lifnei Hashem v'samach, only lifnei Hashem is their smicha. And shchita safon, by slaughtering in the north, techsiv tzafon lifnei Hashem, it says lifnei Hashem over there as well. And matanos, and the applications of the blood that go on all the walls of the mizbeach, saviv, it says saviv dechsiv v'zorak al mizbeach saviv, and it mentions specifically the mizbeach by the Oel Moed. And tenufa, waving dechsiv v'heinef hakoin lifnei Hashem, again it says lifnei Hashem. And hagasha, when it comes to hagasha, dechsiv v'higisha el hamizbeach, it says v'higisha el hamizbeach. By saying hamizbeach, it indicates the mizbeach, the one by the Oel Moed, and not again a private bama. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ein mincha b'bama, there is no mincha by bama. Omer Rav Sheshes says, L'divrei ha'omer yesh mincha b'bama, according to the one who says there is a mincha by a bama, yesh ofos by bama, then there's also bird karbanos by a bama. L'divrei ha'omer ein mincha b'bama, according to the one who says there's no karban mincha by a bama, ein ofos b'bama, there are no bird karbanos by bama. Zevachim v'lo menachos, zevachim v'lo ofos, because it's all learned from the same pasuk. It says zevachim and not menachos. Once you're excluding menachos, we say zvachim v'lo ofos, we exclude birds as well. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. V'kohen, by a bama there's no requirement of kohen. Techsiv v'zorak ha-kohen, because it's written in the pasuk v'zorak ha-kohen. And there also it mentions the Oel Moed and Big Day Shares. There's no Big Day Shares by a bama. L'shares ba kodesh, because it says in the kodesh specifically. Uchlei Shares, and also Klei Shares don't apply by bama. Again, Asher Yashar Subam ba kodesh. Again, it says the word ba kodesh. And l'reach nichoach, there's no requirement of reach nichoach by a bama. Techsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, l'reach nichoach la'Hashem. And there also it mentions the Oel Moed. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. Mechitza bedamim, the mechitza, meaning to say that you have a line on the mizbeach where to apply the blood, below or above the line. Techsiv, because it's written v'haisa hareshas ad chatzi hamizbeach, again referring to hamizbeach, the mizbeach specifically by the Oel Moed. And richutz yadayim, in terms of washing hands, that does not apply by bama. Techsiv, as it's written uvekarvasam el hamizbeach yirchotzu, again uses the word hamizbeach, and therefore it's the mizbeach by the Oel Moed. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots, and we will note that Rashi has a slightly different girsa of this Gemara, but we will learn the Gemara according to the girsa that we have. Amar Rami Bar Chama says, Lo shanu ela b'kadshe bama katana. This halacha that we say that there's no mechitza b'damim, that's only true if it was consecrated with the intention of being brought on a bama katana, v'hikrivum b'bama katana, and then was actually brought on a bama katana, meaning if the original intention was to bring this carbon on a private bama, and that's what happened, it was offered on a private bama, so then there's no halacha mechitza b'damim. It doesn't matter whether it's applied to the lower half or upper half of the mizbeach. Aval b'kadshe bama katana dekarvinu b'bama gedola. Let's say it was the intention was it was consecrated for bama katana, but then it was offered at bama gedola. So yesh chitzoi. Then there is a halacha of chitzoi. Then there does have to be a demarcation on the mizbeach. It has to be applied to the particular part of the mizbeach, upper or lower half. And the Gemara continues, Mosiv Rabba asks a question from the following brisa. Chazav v'shok trumas lachmei toda. When it comes to the chazav v'shok, the breast and the thigh that are given to the kohanim, and the trumas lachmei toda, the portion also set aside from the loaves of the carbon toda. No hagin b'kadshe bama gedola. Those halachas apply by kadshe bama gedola. Again, if it's being offered on the bama gedola. Ve'ein no hagin b'kadshe bama katana. But those halachas do not apply by kadshim of bama katana. Again, if it's talking about a private bama. And the Gemara understands this brisa. It says kadshe bama gedola, kadshe bama katana, that it's talking about if it was consecrated with the intention of bama katana, and it seems to be, as long as it was consecrated with the intention of bama katana, that's enough to say these halachas do not apply. It doesn't matter ultimately if it was brought on the bama gedola, so that goes against what Rami Bar Chama said. And the Gemara says, Ema rather say, the brisa should read as follows, Noagin bi bama gedola, ve noagin bi bama katana. These halachas apply by bama gedola, they don't apply by bama katana. It goes by where the offering is actually brought, not by where the original intention was at the time of the consecration. And the Gemara continues, Ika Diamri, there are those that say a different version of the above Gemara. Amar Rami Bar Chama says, Lo shanu ela b'kadshe bama gedola. This is only true if it was consecrated for bama gedola, v'hikrivon b'bama gedola, and brought on bama gedola. Aval b'kadshe bama katana, but if it was consecrated for bama katana, afal gav dekarvino b'bama gedola, even if it was ultimately offered by bama gedola, ein chitzoi, there's no halach of chitzoi, meaning we do go by the way that it was consecrated by the intention at that time. The Gemara says, Leima Messiah, let's bring a support for this. Again, same brisa, chazav v'shok, utrumas lachmei toda, the halachas of chazav v'shok and trumas lachmei toda, noagin b'kadshe bama gedola, ve noagin b'kadshe bama katana, they apply by consecration for bama gedola, not by consecration for bama katana. It seems to depend on the intention at the time of consecration, and that seems to be a support for Rami Bar Chama in this version. And the Gemara says, no, Ema say, the brisa should say instead, noagin b'bama gedola, ve noagin b'bama katana, take out the word b'kadshe. It simply means it applies by bama gedola and not by bama katana. And the Gemara continues, Upliga de Rebbe Lazar, and this argues in Rebbe Lazar. The Yamar Rebbe Lazar, because Rebbe Lazar says, Olas bamas yachid, if you have an ola of a private bama shehichnisa bifnim, that it is brought bifnim, so kaltua mechitzos l'chal davar, the mechitzos, they capture it, so to speak, for all halachos, meaning to say, the fact that it was originally intended for bama katana does not matter. If it's brought on bama gedola, we follow the halachos of bama gedola, and this goes against, when we say Upliga de Rebbe Lazar, this goes against the second version of Rami Bar Chama. And the Gemara continues, Boy Rabbi Zeir asks the following question, Olas bamas yachid, again an ola of a bamas yachid that's supposed to be brought on a private bama, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Chaf Amud Aleph.